Hey everyone, welcome back to another live stream here at the Australian Reptile Park, and today it is all about everyone's favourite Galapagos tortoise, and that of course is Hugo. So what we're going to be doing today is giving Hugo a bit of food, but mainly we're going to be taking him out on his daily walk. Hugo gets reign of the park whenever he wants to be honest, and when he comes out for a walk he could be out for 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes, who knows, sometimes he even walks out for about 3 hours, and one of us has got to keep an eye on him the whole time, make sure he doesn't get up into any mischief at all. So we're going to let him go out on the grass. He's going to feed obviously on the grass and some food that we've brought down as well. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Galapagos tortoises, but mainly we're going to focus on our amazing tortoise Hugo. Now, a lot of people would have been watching our videos over the last couple of weeks, and we really do hope you're enjoying them as much as we like to think you are. If you can check out Animal Tales with Tim Faulkner every day at 10 o'clock on his Facebook page, but also too, we have heaps of different live streams coming out through the rest of the week as well. But back to our big superstar, Hugo the tortoise. Now, the first question people always ask me about Hugo is how old is he? Now, that's a fantastic question. Hugo is 69 years old. Now that might sound old, but in the world of a Galapagos tortoise, that is not old at all. In fact, Hugo, you might live for another 100 years, potentially another 140 years. One of the oldest Galapagos tortoises ever recorded was 186 years old. So at 69, he's in the absolute prime of his life. What we might do is just get him to start walking this way a little bit and get him out onto the grass. Now, at 69 years of age, he came to Australia in the early 1960s. He came from a place called Isabella Island in the Galapagos Islands itself. He was imported into Australia, and he's been living here at the Reptile Park ever since. So he's lived basically his whole life here with us here at the park. Now, I'm actually trying to coax him out on the grass, but right now he's kind of focused on one of his favourite bits of food, which of course is a carrot. Now, you're probably going to thinking, why do we take Hugo out into the main park? Why is the important part of exercising a big animal like this? Well, exercise is key to keeping these animals really healthy, strong, and fit. Not only do we provide them with fresh grass, obviously, which makes up the majority of his diet, but also too, we keep the tortoise nice and active. So him moving around here keeps his muscles nice and toned, obviously keeps the bones nice and strong, and that means we're going to have a really happy, healthy tortoise. Why that's so important? Right now we're looking at an animal that weighs 179 kilograms, 179 kilos. So imagine the power that you need in those big strong legs to be able to carry that body around. So keeping them muscular and fit is very important to having a nice, happy, healthy, big giant Galapagos tortoise. Now at 179 kilos, it is pretty hard to get him on the scales, I'm not going to lie, but he has plenty of growing to do. In fact, at 179 kilos, maybe if you came back in another 50 or 60 years, Hugo might weigh anywhere up to 300 kilograms. That's about as big as a Galapagos tortoise will ever get. Now, the Galapagos Islands themselves are a beautiful part of the world, and this particular tortoise, Hugo, comes from the northern part of one of the larger islands in the Galapagos archipelago, which is called Isabella Island. That's where this animal originates from. There's around 11 different subspecies of Galapagos tortoise. On the island of Isabella, there's 5 subspecies found on that particular island. This animal's found from the northern part of that island, which is called your Vulcan wolf giant tortoise. Now he's marching down the path at the moment. Usually he sticks to the grass, but he's decided to take the concrete direction instead. They can live till they're approximately 200 years old, and as I said, they can get extremely large, but at this size and at this age, they're starting to reach their prime reproductive years. This is kind of when a tortoise would start to look for a female tortoise to mate with, particularly for a boy, obviously, like we're looking at right now. This is a male tortoise, so in the wild, they would find a female tortoise. Female tortoises will typically become sexually mature at around 30 years of age. Now, in the case of a tortoise, when they start to breed, what the male tortoise will do will get behind the female tortoise, he will mate with that female, and then that female will lay a clutch of eggs. Now, a female tortoise will lay anywhere between maybe 4 and 20 eggs. They're about the size of a nectarine, and about 200 days after that eggs are laid, a beautiful little Galapagos tortoise will hatch out from those eggs. Now, the thing about Galapagos tortoises is, and how they differ from us, when we're born, oh, we almost look like a little alien. We look completely different to how you will look a little bit as you get older. That's not the case for a Galapagos tortoise. When he hatches out of an egg, he looks exactly the same, just really small, and eventually will grow as large as this particular tortoise that we're looking at right now. He's eyeing off dip his food, so I thought I'd jump over and get him a little bit and maybe try and coax him out on the grass. Come on, big boy. Now, if you want to, you can bring that camera in nice and close. We'll get him to bite onto these green beans if he wants to, or he just wants to try and go that way. And I want you to look at the serrations inside the beak there. Here we go. So modern day turtles and tortoises, they don't have any teeth, but their beak is serrated, which allows them to bite through what can, there we go, there's a really good view of it there. So you can imagine them trying to chew down on spiky plants, cactus, etc., etc. Having those serrated beak allows them to crunch through what can be sometimes very dense, hard vegetation. You saw the way he sliced through those beans in just a matter of seconds. I'm thinking what we might need to do is grab some carrot or some sweet potato to coax him this way. Right now he's heading to the bottom of the park. It's going to take me forever to get this big giant tortoise back. Now Hugo is famous, and a few of his things that he really likes to do. Obviously his walk, like he's doing today, coming out and meeting people, hanging out with the keepers. But one of his favourite things he loves to do is getting a hose down. So on a really warm day, we get out the hose, we spray down the carapace, which is the top part of his shell. We give it a nice big hose, and he lifts his body right up and really enjoys getting a hose down on a really warm day. Now, if you look at these feet, they're basically the shape of a column. They're called elephantoid feet. They're very different to what you'll see on a turtle, particularly if you're familiar with our Australian turtle species. And that really is the difference between your turtles and your tortoises. Look at the way this animal's body's designed. He's got club feet like an elephant would have. He's got this large dome-shaped shell. He's designed for a terrestrial lifestyle. Look at how comfortable he is moving on the ground. They're not designed for an aquatic lifestyle like you would be more familiar with our turtle species. So in Australia, we have lots of Australian freshwater turtles. We also have lots of marine or sea turtles. 6 of the world's sea turtles will be found in Australian waters. If you look at a freshwater turtle, they have webbed feet, perfectly adapted to swimming. Or in the case of our marine turtles, they have flippers, once again perfectly adapted for life in the water. A little bit different for Hugo. He does his best work on the ground, just like we're seeing right now. Now, he doesn't look like he's moving very quickly, but he's probably moved maybe 20 or 30 meters in not that much of time at all. In fact, they could probably travel around 500 meters in approximately an hour. So that's about as fast as they move at that top speed. But really, in the wild, there's no need to move that quickly because they have no natural predators outside of, unfortunately, humans we heard did have a detrimental effect on giant tortoises in the wild. But in the wild, what does this animal have to run away from? Nothing. It's advantage Galapagos tortoise. And even saying that, they've got this perfectly designed house, which their shell, it's their protection. The shell itself is made out of bone, it's tough. The scutes that line the outside is made of keratin, the same stuff your hair and fingernails is made from. So that is their protection. And what's cool about tortoises and how they differ from the majority of our turtle species here in Australia is the way they can withdraw their neck all the way inside of his shell. Now, he's probably not going to give you a demonstration of that today because he's quite relaxed and he's enjoying being out, but they can withdraw their cervical vertebra all the way inside of the margins of their shell. Our turtle species in Australia, a little bit different. Instead of drawing their neck all the way in, they'll fold their neck to the side. Now, if you've ever seen an eastern long-necked turtle do that, they fold their neck underneath the overlying carapace. It's different. For a tortoise, he can draw that neck all the way in. Now, turtles and tortoises have been on the planet for a very, very long time. They started to evolve around 240 million years ago. Just goes to show how long they've been on the planet for. At 220 million years ago, we had our first fully fledged turtle species, animals called Proganocheles. Now, they're so special, but unfortunately, they're not always doing too well in the wild. In fact, there's already been 7 extinctions of species of turtle and tortoise in modern times, and there's about 65% of turtle and tortoises found throughout the world that are considered threatened, endangered, or critically endangered. And there, of course, is things we can help do to stop that trend. One of the big threats to turtles and tortoises is the illegal pet trade. Now, it's not and meat trade as well. Now, it's not a major issue here in Australia, but in other parts of the world, it definitely is. But also too, if there's one thing you can do after today, after watching this video, is if you use plastic at all, plastic bags, plastic straws, always make sure it goes in the bin. Then it won't end up on the ground, won't be ingested by one of our beautiful land tortoises, or end up in the rivers and be ingested by one of our beautiful freshwater turtle species. Even worse, out in the rivers and be consumed by a big giant sea turtle. So just by making sure your plastic always goes in the bin, you are helping to save these animals out in the wild. Now, Hugo's not the only tortoise we have here at the reptile park, not the only Galapagos tortoise as well. We have another boy, his name is Dippy. Dippy is a little bit younger than Hugo. He's 54 years of age, but they're just such amazing animals to work with. You can bring the camera in really close. They do have quite good eyesight and they can see in colour. They breathe through the nares here, their nostrils at the front. You can see that right there. And also too, they have a scale that covers their ear. Now their sense of hearing isn't that great, but their sense of taste and smell, but also their eyesight. So when Hugo sees one of his favourite types of food, which will be sweet potato or carrot, you'll really start to see him move. Now we don't give them things like watermelon that often, but when he sees watermelon, he'll almost do a backflip to get to that watermelon. Now he can't obviously do a backflip, but he gets very excited when he sees watermelon. They like food that's sweet, they like food that's high in moisture content. So yeah, we don't feed them that too much. We primarily feed them more akin to what they'd be dieting on in the wild. So grass, which he gets every day, lucerne hay, which is very, very healthy, but also green vegetables like and leafy greens such as endive and kale, bok choy, etc. Green beans, snow peas. We try and keep their diet as green as possible. Now you can already guess by the foods that I've told you that we're looking at a herbivorous species. Now they have been observed feeding on carrion, so dead animals in the wild, but they're primarily herbivorous. So a similar type diet that you would expect to see on like a roaming ruminant of some sorts, maybe a horse or a large cow. That's basically how they function. They're a herbivorous animal and they have to consume quite a large amount of food to maintain that really large body. But a difference between a horse and a cow that weighs a couple of 100 kilos in Hugo is the way he uses and conserves energy and the way he uses and conserves water in particular. They don't have the same or need for the same water intake that a mammal of the same size would need, but also too, they don't have the same dietary intake that a mammal of the same size would use. They are much more reserved in the way they use their energy, and in fact Hugo could probably go a number of weeks without feeding and you wouldn't see his condition change too much at all. That's the joys of being an ectothermic animal like we're looking at right now. An animal that uses things like the sun to warm up their body, and that will make them active. But yes, they still need to eat food of course, but nowhere near the same amount of a mammal of the same weight. He's moved around quite a bit today. He's travelled all the way down to the bottom of the park. He's also picked out the prettiest part of the park to enjoy today. He's got all that beautiful grass and the kangaroos are loving that, and he's decided to come down to the show pit instead. But what a cool animal, and we're very lucky to get spend time with Hugo.
We've got some questions coming in, Dan.
Yep.
People want to know, what does his shell feel like?
Okay, so the shell is very, very hard. Now in some parts it feels quite smooth, particularly towards the back, but look, it's not the same, but if you feel the back of your fingernail and rub your finger along that, it's a little bit similar to that. But the majority of the shell is quite smooth. But yeah, it's got a really nice hard texture, smooth texture to it.
How big was Hugo when he was born?
Okay, so when a Galapagos tortoise hatches out of an egg, they are the size of a nectarine. They're really, really small, and when they hatch, they're almost like a jet black colour. They're beautiful little hatchlings, and oh, what a dream it would be to one day have hatchling little Hugos at the reptile park.
Is Hugo fully grown yet?
He's not. So at the moment he weighs 179 kilograms. 179, almost 180. He'll get there very, very soon. In another, say, 50 to 60 years, he will continue to grow, and you're getting a good shot of him at the moment, Caitlin. He might weigh 300 kilograms. So one of the largest Galapagos tortoises ever recorded was around 311, or approximately around that mark.
Does Hugo have a favourite food? Out of all the foods, what's his absolute favourite?
I have to say it's probably prickly pear, which is a type of cactus. Not native to Australia, but you can find it, and they do love it. We obviously take the spikes off the cactus for him, but also too, watermelon. They love watermelon. When he sees watermelon, he only gets it very, very occasionally. He gets very, very excited for a watermelon feast.
Do they drink much water?
Yes, so Hugo probably drinks every 2 to 3 weeks, and you'll see him, he'll stick his whole head in. Now, a little bit different to an Aldabran tortoise, which is the other species of giant tortoise, which is found in the Seychelles. They can actually lap up water through their nares. Bit different for Hugo. He'll put his whole head in the water and basically gulp it up. So I usually see Hugo drink every 2 to 3 weeks, and he'll consume quite a large amount of water, but they don't have to drink that often. They really don't. They don't lose much water at all, and that's the joys of being a reptile and the way their skin and their shell's designed. They don't lose, they have great water retention. So he doesn't drink anywhere near as much as what you or I would drink on a daily basis.
Do they make any noises?
Hugo is very, very vocal. When you're getting too close to him and he wants you to move back, he will let you know. So they make these almost hissing noises. Now, obviously, they're most famous for the noises that they make when they're trying to mate in particular. So when they mate with a female tortoise, they'll let out this really loud grunt. And it's funny to watch and it's funny to listen to. But yeah, they are very, very vocal animals.
All right, Dan, we might do one more question.
Yeah.
Do they sleep much at all?
Yeah, obviously, primarily diurnal. So obviously they're active during the day, and you can understand that being a herbivorous creature and the way their eyesight works, etc. So yes, active during the day and then they rest at night. Now it's a bit of a different sleep to you or I would have, but they usually are actively functioning for about 10 to 12 hours of the day, and then in a rest period outside of that until the sun comes back up. They wake up again and then they're ready to eat as much food as they can in that day.
All right, Dan, we'll wrap it up there. I think Hugo's decided to go round the back here, so we'll end it there and see if we can get him some nice food as a reward.
Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm probably going to be about here for another hour or two trying to get him back. Hope you have a lovely day and keep enjoying our videos. See you soon. See ya. All right, Hugo, let's go.